Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, Listeners Breakfast Briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happening in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But before I start, I'd just like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Okay, let's meet the panel this week. We've got Dame Janet Trotter. She was an academic and administrator in higher education who helped found the University of Gloucestershire, becoming the first vice-chancellor and principal. She's the chair of the Cyber Trust, chair of the Chamwell Centre, and just stepped down a few weeks ago as chair of the Nelson Trust. In 2010, she was appointed Lord Lieutenant of Gloucestershire. We've got Kevin Harris. He's the board advisor and business mentor for Tandem Consultancy. He's the CEO of Construction Excellence for Southwest, which is a cross-sector, cross-supply chain, member-led organisation operating for the good of construction industry and its stakeholders. And here in the Southwest region, they have around 250 members. Thanks, guys, for joining this morning. Okay, let's have a look at the newspapers before we start. So, courtesy of the BBC, here we go. The Financial Times. Reeves demands city watchdogs allow greater risk in push to promote growth. The Eye, Reeves to give bankers their bonuses early as she reveals major pensions fund revamp. The Guardian, hundreds of carers could face trial for benefits error. The Metro, 3 billion Apple iPhone rip-off case. The Times, police chase classroom jibes as hate incidents. The Daily Telegraph, 3 police forces called in to probe single tweet. The Daily Mail, Starmer backs thought police. The Mirror, stop the cosmetic cowboys. It's a real mixed bag this morning. But let's start with you today, Janet. What have you picked out from the papers, please?
Well, more ethical issues, I think. It's been a week for me of some big thinking areas. So there's a large um, page of input from the Daily Mail about assisted dying, and particularly comparing with what is likely to happen in this country with the Canadian experience. And it's very interesting that they say all these schemes start off well, and then there's a sort of corruption of, who's eligible. And they say that in Canada, assisted dying has become a perverse lifestyle choice. And I have to say, last year when I was in Canada, I was sitting next to someone at tea over the Christmas log fire, and I said to her, "What's in your mind for this year?" And he said, "I'm going to see my doctor this year about terminating my life." And and his family were there, and just said, "Well, who else are you going to discuss that with? Because you haven't discussed it with us." So and you sort of book in for it. And it's quite a difficult sort of process. Anyway, this article is quite interesting. The Smith or Smythe case and the Church of England is still across the newspapers, and that's another big ethical issue. And the Coleman family, the Mustard family, are now in the sights, in the limelight, because the daughter of the Coleman industry, if you like, is a priest in Kent, and she has been moved away from that and told not to practice. And then there's all the abuse of Al Fayed and the new revelations there. So it sort of tests you in your thinking about, how people are, how they own up to things that they've been involved in, and the ethical issues that we all face day by day, and I'm sure, Kevin, you face in your business world, and I face at Chamwell and at the Nelson Trust. And they become more and more prominent for me because we've all got to establish a moral compass by which we can live, and that's going to guide us and not blow us off course every time it's possible to divert the truth. And of course, with Trump in America, is even more worrisome about where do we find truth, where is truth, and all this stuff about anti-vaxxing and so on.
Well,
Or
it goes to show the demise of the traditional media at the end of the day as well, and how social media now controls the narrative on everything. And it seems to be that's the way that that Trump has won the election by the power of social media rather than the legacy media that we also have in this country.
well, it's like the Wild West. I mean, he's also appointing people who seem to sit likely with the truth if you think truth has something to do with evidence.
Well, I'm going to bring Kevin in here as well, just to get your views on the assisted dying. Let's really, let's get both your opinion on it. I mean, my opinion. Well, I'm kind of stuck in the middle, really. It's all about checks and balances, isn't it? I can see something you've got. My brother had terminal cancer, and he talked to me a lot about committing. He wanted to commit suicide, but he thankfully never had um, he didn't find a way of doing that, thankfully. I don't know how my parents would have coped with it, or let alone the people around that have to cope with that type of thing. And but he did actually want to go down that route, and he died of cancer. But he had a I felt with his loved ones around him and everyone with him. We were there with him, thankfully. I think what they're doing when they send somebody away did it, I can't remember the place, and uh,
Dignitas in
that's
Switzerland.
right. And people can't go with you. I mean, that's terribly sad as well, isn't it? I don't know. What's your view on it, Kevin? Are you pro or
Well,
against it, or?
well, I'm sort of in the middle, I guess. Uh, it's interesting that you came to me about assisted dying. I'll bring Kevin in. I thought, well, am I looking that old now? Well, I don't know. But I know that my mother passed away quite a few years ago, but she was pretty poorly with cancer at the end. And I remember her saying to me when she first caught it that she didn't want to die, blah blah. But as she got towards the end, and it was quite obviously she was getting near the end, she actually wanted to go a bit quicker, and it was a lot of it was around the pain that she thought that we were all suffering, watching her shrink away. So we all chose as a family to say goodbye to one another before she got really poorly, other than a couple of my sister and my father, but stayed with her. And I found that quite difficult, but actually quite content with it because I've now got quite a nice image of her, a little bit more like the mother that I had rather than the one that would have been at the end. So yeah, it's a real challenge, isn't it? I don't think this is how it should be. And everyone's got a personal view. The family will have a view. I think your point about checks and balances is completely right. I think there needs to be that. But who am I? I've not really been in that position to really give it some thought, I suppose. But it's a delicate one, isn't it?
But in Canada, it's a runaway train, isn't it? I remember it's same as like 30,000 people
Hmm.
Mm,
now
mm.
a year ago for assisted dying.
It's the highest number in the world, Mark,
Is it? Wow.
that die in Canada, and it's like a lifestyle choice. My sister's a chaplain in a hospital, and she's called in every so often to be with a family when the injection is administered, and the whole family's around, and it's quite difficult to see someone slipping away at a particular time,
Hmm.
and they're sitting there waiting for it to happen, and then they usually go into pieces, however they've been prepared for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but certainly uh, MPs and House of Lords are going to be voting on it shortly,
Yeah.
and we ought to have a view so that because it's sort of says something about our society, doesn't it? I mean, is it a humane act or is it a selfish act or is
Well,
it disposing of elderly people or
you can
people?
see how elderly people don't want to be a burden on their family, and
Mm,
them opting for what they think is the right thing to do. It's just a complete minefield. I just can't see how it would go. I just can't see the right way it will go. This thing. Let's go back to you, Kevin. Let's pick out what have you picked out from the papers, please.
Well, I picked a construction related one, mainly, Mark, because I've been talking at a few events about the skills shortage in construction, particularly, and it's widespread. I read an article for a piece of work I was doing recently from, I think it was CITB, that said there's nearly a quarter of a million construction workers skills shortage that's needed by 2028, which is not far away. And I picked up an article online this morning. It's actually in the big issue, and it was on this subject, so I thought it would be relevant. And there's an aging workforce in construction, there certainly is, and they're all retiring a little earlier than we probably would have expected. So they get into their 50s and decide that actually I think, and COVID played its part in this, of course, absolutely it did. And and I think, it's that shrinking at the top is not being fed by the new people coming at the bottom. There are some government initiatives, and there always have been. But as I've done a piece of work on it, it's quite fragmented, There's lots of good things going on. And even with myself, I pulled together a leadership in construction course for the college and been delivering that with a friend of mine. And we've put about 50 people through there, but we're doing that independently of anything else. And I think there'll be lots of independent, brilliant things happening inside businesses and initiatives. So that whole policy change piece, Mark, I think needs to really come to the fore. And we all know what the benefits of training and good training are, and getting that nice feed into the industry would be something that I'd like to really try and focus on. Yeah.
I'd like to know how the government is going to build 1.5 million new homes in this Parliament with
Well, I
the
mean,
with the
if you
amount.
just do the maths and work that out to a day and an hour, I don't think it actually equates very easily, because we haven't started yet. So every day we're getting behind, aren't we? So, but I think that I mean, I was an apprentice as a youngster, and I think it was a 5-year apprenticeship in engineering at the time. And I would really like to try and get apprenticeships back on the front page. It's a great way to learn and earn at the same time, isn't it? And I think the apprenticeship levy is going to be replaced. I was reading about a flexible growth and skills levy. I don't know. I don't have any details on it, but it's supposed to support the workforce gaps. Um, but it needs funding, it needs support, and it needs government intervention, and it needs it quite quickly. And so it's great to have these initiatives, isn't it? But they need to actually press the button on something and get it moving. Otherwise, we're going to be in a real pickle. And when we just won't, we won't deliver any homes if we're not careful, will we? Because we haven't got the people to build them.
No, without a shadow of doubt. I'm going to pick out a story myself. Actually, it's the front page of the Daily Express, and this is a ridiculous £3,000 budget hike for small shops. There it is. There. This is all boils down to the rate rises and also the raises of the national minimum wage, national insurance that we all talked about. Every single business I talk to at the moment is very, very concerned about this and the possibility that they're going to have to cut staff or reduce their hours. This is what the papers Daily Express was saying. Small shops in particular, the corner shops that they represent, they might have to reduce their hours, reduce the staffing levels, and they've really, really worried that they're not going to make it through the next couple of years. It's quite simple as that. Or they close down early, maybe take early retirement. I think she's really shot herself in the foot with this, Rachel Reeves. I don't think it's a very well thought through policy whatsoever. Anyway, let's move on from the newspapers. I'm going to bring you back in, Janet. Let's talk about the Chamwell Centre because you've been involved with that. We did a great little video, but don't mind me saying, a tour around video a little while ago.
You did.
And do you just want to give us an overview of the Chamwell Centre again and your role within it?
Yes, I was. So the Chamwell Centre was built with private donations and with £5 million. And then it got into some difficulty with its recurrent expenditure. So I was sort of brought in to help sort that bit out. And I'm pleased to say that we're doing very nicely. Ria Heap is the new general manager, and she's magic with working with local businesses, trying to get them involved in a sense of ownership. So E.G. Carter recently has just installed a mural and painted round an area and has put asphalt on the ground. And we're going to put games there for children with disabilities, appropriate games. And it's an outside area, and it looks absolutely fantastic already, but not quite finished. And we're about to have some new facilities into the changing rooms. So it's basically a hydrotherapy pool and a community hub or a community centre, particularly looking at the needs of families and children who are disabled and in any way, and trying to get a message of inclusivity and diversity and acceptance of everybody as they are, and they're all welcome. So I'm really very pleased with what's happening at the Chamwell Centre. We can always do with some more money. And going back to the previous item about small businesses, we have to think of small charities, which are equally hit very hard. And when I talk to people from in this last week who are running small charities, they're really desperately worried about where money's coming from over the next year, and wondering if they will be in existence. And it's exactly the same story as with the small shopkeeper. You know, if you're having costs whacked on you pretty regularly, you just can't sustain the business as you want to. So, you know, that's one of the things. But actually, I'm pleased with Chamwell.
I was just going to say the other thing about that, going back to those charities, also, a lot of business people, and Kevin knows this as well, because he does, we support, and the business community support a lot of these charities. You know, we give a lot of our time, a lot of our money, and the more they get squeezed, the less they can support the charities as well. It becomes a double-edged sword. And you know, I really fear for it. I really do. I mean, Kevin, you work a lot with the charity sector as well, don't you?
I've been supporting a CIC for the last 2 years, and about to become their chair. I can't announce it yet because it's not actually formally been adopted, but it's you get behind. So, you know way more about this than I do, but you get behind the scenes of a lot of these CICs, charities, and these great support groups, and they've all got fantastic reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. Every single one is struggling. You know, I'm a great supporter of Talitha over at the
GCF.
At GCF, and I'm going to one of their events on Sunday. Janet, you might be there. I'm not sure, but
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
I'll see you on Sunday. But it's wherever you go, there's a desperate need for more money. It's not just money, however, it's support. Business communities do support, but it's usually by giving a gift at certain times of the year, whether it's Christmas or money at different occasions, which is always very valuable. But really, there's a disconnect, I think, often between the need and what can be delivered, you know, and the more that you grow these charities and CICs, the bigger the need becomes, and you kind of just think, wow, this never stops. It's remarkable, yeah.
In some ways, there's too many charities.
Yeah.
Well, it might be that, and you might say, you know, let's merge or let's consolidate or whatever. I don't think that takes the problem away, because the need is still there within the local community. And talking about small businesses, we had an event two weeks ago at Chamwell, and we went to the local butcher because we wanted to sell hot dogs, and he let us have these sausages at a reduced price. Now, if he's absolutely squeezed as a small business because he's on his own, independent, he won't be able to do that because his margins will be so small. So all of this stuff has a multiplying effect within the local community. And I suppose the thing that I'm probably most concerned about is all of these initiatives from government, not knowing quite what the implication of them will be, sort of calls out for some industrial strategy, like for skills, like for, you know, how they're going to be charged and so on, where people are going to come from in the future. And we don't have that total picture at the moment. And I really hope that government will come up with an industrial strategy and actually make sense of it, because then I think the country will be prepared to work hard. Businesses do work hard, charities work hard, but they see a sort of vision and a purpose that is beyond what they see at the moment, because they just see a series of different initiatives that don't seem to add up, don't reinforce one another.
There's also so many challenges that the business community have to face, and it's one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And it comes to a point where actually you just cannot mentally and physically cope with it any longer. Kevin, I'm going to just ask you, let's talk about your construction excellence and how long have you been the chief executive? And do you just want to give an
Um,
overview of that, please?
yeah, just coming up to 2 years actually. I was, if you remember, Mark, I was chair for the Gloucestershire Club for a number of years and vice chair for even longer than that, I think. I've been involved with it for about 16, maybe 17 years. And when I was asked to take over, I initially said, look, I'll do it as an interim, but interim never happens. Suddenly you're 2 years in. But it's been really good. And I suppose the change there has been really, well, the sector has changed significantly, absolutely, and for the better in many respects. But it was about adding more value, really, I suppose, for me. And we put on a lot of events. I think you're familiar, Mark, with our big award ceremony that we have every year. That we run it under the wings of Concorde, actually, at the Bristol Aerospace Bristol for the
Mhm.
last 2 years, and we get over 500 people attend the evening. But like all things, we're a not-for-profit organisation, so we do it all on a shoestring. And to put on an event like that is costly in time, it's costly in resource, but you get to the end and you're celebrating the successes of the brilliant things that go on in infrastructure, civil engineering, and construction, and you just go, wow, what a sector to be in. And it's so it gives me complete joy every year, but it doesn't feel like it as you're in the build up, because trying to pull all that together with what is probably two or three of us that pull that together over in the year. It takes a lot of doing, but it's great because across the region we get a wonderful support. And just going back slightly to the charity question, the construction industry has always been brilliant at supporting the charity sector. Really fantastic. And whether it's adopting a school when they're in the location or whether they're on the build programs, often the relationships, as you know, Janet, extend beyond actually the build and the relationship off. So I would like to give a, a boost, I suppose, to the construction industry that they do a fantastic amount of brilliant work in the charity sector, and long may it last.
I'm
Yeah,
just going to stop you.
yeah.
So I'm just going to stop you there, if you don't mind. Can you say about very quickly, because I want to go back to Janet, and then we will run out of time pretty quickly. It's funny how you become a chair, isn't it? And we've all done this because I was chair of the Federation of Small Business for 12 years. I was only going to do it for a year, and you get
I
sort
don't know.
of
You
suckered
get
into
sucked
it.
in, don't you? Yeah, and you can't let go. Yeah,
You can't get out. And that
yeah.
brings me very nicely back over to you, Janet, because you have finally let go, and you're going to let go of the Nelson's Trust, and you've been chair of the Nelson's Trust for a little while. How long have you been involved with the Nelson's Trust?
5 or 6 years. So I've done my contribution and I've sort of come to the end of it, and it's absolutely right that somebody else takes over. But we have expanded. I mean, we've doubled in size and so on, if that's an important criterion. We're serving more women and men who've, have substance abuse issues or, domestic abuse issues. And it's a really good charity. And we're now operating in the southwest, pretty well across the southwest, and in Wales, across the whole of Wales. So, yeah, it's very exciting, and there's a lot to be done. And there again, it's a charity where you earn contracts or you win contracts, but you're always anxious lest the next contract doesn't come. And we now employ something like 400 people, which is
Mm.
huge. It was about 30 people when I first started.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the work. It really is. It really is an amazing charity. As you know, we try and support it as much as we can here at Punchline Gloucester as well. Thanks ever so much for that bit. Kevin, let's just go over to you. Do you want to tell us about your consultancy role with Tandem? Because Tandem was born out the back of Oxbox, I should
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
and a HR company. How much do you work with these guys? Do you want to give it
Oh,
a quick
quick
plug for a
plug.
minute?
Yeah. Well, I've been again with what was originally Oxbox, but we merged with Elaine Warwick's Canny Conversation earlier this year, and bringing us together has been a real boost actually. And I think I've used that word a couple of times today, but it's been a great coming together. Hence the tandem. Really, there's two of the businesses came together, and that's where Tandem was born. But we do everything from strategic plans, leadership development, operational sort of optimization, and business transformation is a bit that I really enjoy, hence sitting as a mentor and a board advisor. But of course, it's not just in the construction sector for me, it's across all sectors. So you see the problems actually across every business that you get involved with. But what I'm really seeing at the moment is that a lot of businesses are not necessarily looking to grow. They're looking to be much better at what they're currently doing. And so I think perhaps the days of growing and having that as your focus is probably still there, but actually people are just deciding at the moment, if I can make what I've currently got and hold on to it and make it better, that seems to be at the fore.
Okay, no, thanks ever so much for that. I think I totally agree with you. A lot of people want to get out. That's the other thing I hear.
Well, we are doing quite a lot of exit planning actually, but yeah.
So without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, we better close there. We're going to do the pick of the punchlines now, please. What have you picked out for us, Janet?
Well, I haven't actually picked out from Punchline, but I know I'm very bad, but I want to celebrate something that is essentially Gloucestershire, and I know you will indulge me. So yesterday I was at the Houses of Commons and met our two new MPs for Stroud and Gloucester, and they were hosting the M5 motorway stations, which is 10 years old. And it's a partnership between a charity and between business, so T-based services. It's the most liked motorway station in the country. And they've done the impact, and I just wanted to read you a few figures to say just how fantastic. So the area that is beside the services is one of the poorer areas of neglected too, it was, areas of Gloucester. But they've created over 400 sustainable local jobs in their period. They've put 100 people through Bridging the Gap employability programs. They've put £2 million into local charities and local businesses. So there's been a real community business partnership. And I think that is a way forward for quite a few things in Gloucestershire. And there was a sense of excitement yesterday that there's a sort of mood change in Gloucestershire of building things up from the bottom rather than doing things to people in the community. And I'm very much hoping that the charitable world that we talk about, which really businesses, will be able to step up to the plate and do more within their communities. So that's my contribution there, Mark.
Okay, no, and thank you very much for that. And I'm a big fan of the work down there as well. And I know loads of people that go there for lunch, live around here, and they pop down the motorway for lunch or something and pick up a fantastic sausage roll. Okay, Kevin, what's your pick of the punchlines, please?
Well, I live in Stroud, and the one that stood out to me was the missing mile, which is the Stroud Water Canal missing mile, which is between Eastington and the M5. And for those that don't know, the M5 obliterated that canal when it was put through in the 1960s. And I walk a lot along the canal, and this particular part I know quite well because that is an area I spend quite a bit of time. So it just caught my eye.
And have you walked under the motorway? Because I've done that walk as well. You've walked
done that too, yeah. And as you know, Mark, it's to get this last part. They've done the other side of the M5, haven't they? This bit was what they call the missing mile. So it's slowly because it takes a long time to get through planning. But they put a small aqueduct in now, and one of the local companies in Stroud have been designing that. And I've seen it sort of grow, as I walk along. So it just caught my eye. So for anybody that's not been along the Stroud Canal and enjoyed the brilliant, because they're going to build wildlife corridors and all sorts of things. It's at the back of the new Forest Green training ground. It's along that area there, And I think it'd be a vibrant tourist destination once it's done. But I love it for its simplicity at the moment. So that was what caught my eye.
And what would be amazing, Kevin, that you and I would be able, you'd be able to come from Stroud, I'll
Yeah,
be able to walk from my house here in Gloucester,
yeah.
and we'll be able to walk
Yeah,
along the canals and actually be
we've
able, be able to meet up for a sandwiches, mate.
imagine that, Mark. Yeah.
That'd be absolutely fantastic. I'm a big fan of the canals. Don't get me started on that. Honestly, we won't have the time. Unfortunately, that is all that we've got time for today. I'd just like to thank my wonderful two guests today, my sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. To everybody who's watched the show, thanks ever so much. And if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back again next week. But until then, remember, it's all in the punchline. Bye.